Donald Trump just got nightmare news, and he is not handling it well, as his usual voters have abandoned him in droves. He's now getting the worst polling in presidential history since the end of Nixon's presidency. Donald Trump neck and neck with Nixon, never a good thing. Now, Donald Trump is particularly losing a massive amount of support among young people. I mean, when CNN did a poll among young voters back last February, Donald Trump somehow was like a plus 10. In that same CNN poll, he's now closer to a negative 50. And that's not an outlier poll. The recent Wall Street Journal poll has Donald Trump in a similar range. The recent Pew poll has Donald Trump in a similar range. And let me get into some of the details here, and you will see why, especially regarding Donald Trump's cover-up of a child sex trafficking ring, the cover-up of the Epstein files, Donald Trump attacking people's Affordable Care Act plans and ripping away health care, Donald Trump making comments like he did recently right after he was in Iowa and while he was in the Oval Office, saying that my goal is not to lower housing prices, I want to raise the prices. The American dream is not about affordable housing. It's helping the wealthy people increase the value of their house so we can decrease the supply of housing. And young people were like, you promised us on day one you would help us afford homes. You promised us on day one you would make things more affordable. Now you're making things less affordable. You're focused on wars against the rest of the world. You're covering up a child sex trafficking ring. Folks, let's get into it. Then I want to zoom in on some of these congressional races that I think is going to lead to the House of Representatives flipping in favor of the Democrats right now. So let's take a look right here. First, I want to show you this Pew Research poll. Donald Trump's approval, 37%. 61% of people disapprove of Donald Trump. But when you zoom in, you take a look at the demographics. Donald Trump even lost white voters, -8. Black voters, -71. Hispanic voters, -45. Asian voters, -48. Trump has lost men, -15. Female voters, -32. Amongst Democrats, -89. He's only plus 49 amongst his Republican base right now. Ages 18 to 29, -39. Ages 30 to 49, -30. Ages 50 to 64, -11. Ages 65 plus, -15. As Benji Sarlin says, Mr. Trump's approval rating by demographic groups looks almost like it did at the time with the Times Siena poll when Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. But if anything, young and non-white voters are even likelier to disapprove of Donald Trump than they were then. There was this Wall Street Journal article that resonated with me. Young voters starting to regret their vote for Donald Trump. A Wall Street Journal poll finds 58% of voters under 30 disapprove of the job that Donald Trump is doing. And they told stories like this. Elsia Morales was all in for MAGA. 21 years old, she cast her first presidential vote for Donald Trump in 2024 and soon built up Republican credentials, leading her Indiana College Turning Point USA chapter as a vice president and serving as a national committee woman for the College Republicans of America for the state. But after seeing videos of deportations posted by Trump administration officials and the killing of Alex Pretty in Minneapolis, Morales, a granddaughter of a Mexican immigrant, says her support for Trump is at a newfound low. She says she's also disturbed by Trump's foreign entanglements, including with Israel, and she has left her post at Turning Point USA, the youth outreach organization founded by Charlie Kirk and the College Republicans of America. This is not the party that I once signed up for or registered to be in, the St. Mary's College Junior said. Or meet Jathan Desan, said he already decided he regretted backing Donald Trump this fall after Democrats shut down the government in an unsuccessful effort to extend healthcare subsidies, which expired at the end of 2025. Jathan, 22-year-old medical student and resident of Philadelphia, found himself cheering on the Democrats. Or how about John Carr? It seems like there's always 3 bad weeks, then one couple of good days, said John Carr, 21, a senior at the University of Georgia from Monroe, Georgia, about Trump's second term. Today looks like one of his good days, referring to the recent strike on Venezuela, although we ended up learning that Donald Trump just propped up the authoritarian, Delcy Rodriguez there, stole the oil, sold it to his right-wing oligarch friends, opened up a Qatari bank account so Trump could personally enrich himself. He's opened up Qatari bank accounts, y'all, for himself, not giving that money to the Treasury, and he got us into more foreign entanglements and wars. 2 weeks later, Carr said that the president's interest in acquiring Greenland was silly and an unnecessary escalation of tensions between America's closest allies. Or Jaden Bloomberg, a 22-year-old food service worker from Sugar Grove, Illinois, was first drawn to Trump because of his promise to reinvigorate America. I love the idea of America first, he said, but since Trump took office, Bloomberg said he felt like the president has been focused outside of the country. I don't think that this particular moment in history, while we are having internal problems, we should be fighting on the other side of the world. Bloomberg also said Trump's handling of the Epstein files has concerned him. Now that CNN poll that I talked about at the beginning of this video, let's play this clip right here.
This isn't falling into the water. This isn't going underseas. This is going into a deep, dark, black hole. Look at that, minus 46 points. That is a shift on the net approval of 56 points in the wrong direction since February. My goodness gracious, you know I love looking at these swings, looking how the electorate changes. You rarely ever see swings.
We look at a lot of polls. We almost never see drops this big, this quickly.
Yeah.
Any sense of why? What issues may be driving it?
You know, look, we've been talking about it. You were talking about it last segment with Mr. Matt Egan. It's the economy, stupid. I mean, just take a look here. Age 18 to 29 on Trump and the economy. Back in October of 2024, who did those under the age of 30 trust? Harris or Trump? It was Trump by 10 points, according to the Marquette University Law School poll. Look at where his net approval rating is now on the economy. Minus 52 points. Very similar to what we saw in the CBS News YouGov poll in terms of his overall drop in support on the net approval rating. And this minus 52, it's just stunning. It's just stunning. I mean, John is here with me. John, who, of course, ran a political campaign eons ago, someone who studied political science eons ago. I don't want to make you seem that old, but he has looked at these polls as long as I have, and he's just as stunned as I am because the bottom line is you rarely ever see shifts like this.
Yeah, it's a
Now, Donald Trump's support amongst the right-wing influencers, right-wing podcasters, and other notable right-wing, quote-unquote, conservative figures, if you even want to use that name, I mean, they've been absolutely abandoning Donald Trump as well. The podcaster Sean Ryan, who probably has the biggest right-wing, I'm not sure if he considers himself that, but right-wing conservative podcast that young men, probably even overtaking Joe Rogan now in that kind of space. Sean Ryan says, our government has fallen to fraud, foreign and domestic. They lied to all of us while enabling the rape of our children. This is what we fought for. Have you ever heard of a shell company? We are a shell country. And of course, he's also referencing the release of 3 million Epstein files on Friday. Donald Trump's name is on appears over 5,000 times in some of the most ghoulish and grotesque ways. So do others in his regime. His regime might as well be called the Epstein cabal at this point. Howard Lutnick, Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary, name appears over and over again. Elon Musk's name appears over and over. Peter Thiel's name appears. Donald Trump's new chairman of the Federal Reserve, that guy Warsh, his name appears there. It is the cabal. You know, Donald Trump's right-wing friends who own NFL teams like Steve Tisch, their names appear on there. Dan Bilzerian, who's kind of like you would call him a right-wing influencer, Instagram kind of guy. He goes, the Epstein files are a Democrat hoax. Trump is such a piece of shit for gaslighting us to protect pedophiles. And, you know, Bilzerian, if you followed, I know you don't have to follow him, but he started turning against Trump a lot based on Trump's unmitigated support of Netanyahu. And then, you know, the cover up of the Epstein files. Ryan Garcia, famous boxer who was in Mar-a-Lago doing the boxing for Donald Trump. And, part of this group of he streams, he's a social media influencer, and he's a very good boxer. And objectively, he's a good boxer, Ryan Garcia. But he gets in a lot of trouble and he engages in some very questionable behavior. But here's what he posted. This is my public declaration and announcement. I'm reclining my past support for Donald Trump. He means rescinding. Anyone that was involved in anything to do with that island and what they were doing, I just can't support in any way. Children need to be protected. Everyone knew better. Fuck that. Justice for all. And I'm sorry for cursing. I'm just reading you what he's saying. And then not right-wing influencers, but just celebrities and people with influential backgrounds, famous singers. Finally, people are starting to speak up. To be fair, Becky G, let me be clear. Becky G is not a right-wing anyone. She's a very famous singer. She's always stood up for her community. I actually represented Becky G once back in the day when I was a lawyer, and I got to know her, and she's a great person, Becky G. But she was out there showing off her F-Ice nails during an appearance on the red carpet recently, and we're seeing a lot of it. So as I said at the beginning of this video, I want to zoom in on some specific congressional districts and talk about some tangible things now, shall we? Let's talk about Iowa, because Trump was just there. And Trump is terrified of what's happening in Iowa, because there's been special election after special election. You have State Senator Zimmer, Democrat, flipped a plus 21 Trump district last January, not this past January, last January. Then you have Caitlin Dray flipping a plus 10 or plus 11 Trump district, plus 10 in her favor, a 21-point swing. Then you had other people overperforming by 20, 30 points what Kamala Harris did in 2024. Democratic Senate candidates looking great there. So you have a real shot of Democrats flipping the Senate seat there. Democrats in the Democrats flipping all of these House seats. I've been highlighting a lot of Iowa congressional seats. I want to do so now. I think it's very important. I mean, if you look at Trump's polling in Iowa right now, it's net negative 9%. I mean, awful polling in Iowa as well. And you go to Iowa's 3rd congressional district, and you talk about one of the reasons that young people and people in general just despise these MAGA candidates. I mean, look at Zach Nunn. He's the MAGA Republican Congress member from Iowa's 3rd congressional district, and he refers to the Affordable Care Act as a form of slavery and says that he wants to make sure no one gets ACA at all. It's not enough just to remove the subsidies, because he says you're being enslaved by Affordable Care Act plans. But he and Trump and MAGA haven't introduced their own thing. They just lie and say, oh, we got a plan coming around the corner. Watch Zach Nunn at his most recent event, very small group. He was speaking in front of like 10 people or something, because if it was any bigger, he knew he was going to get booed. And watch him say how much he hates the Affordable Care Act plan. Let's play it.
Let's talk about the ACA. I think we all collectively agree it's one of the worst plans conceived by man. I want the ACA gone as much as any of you. The ACA keeps people in a position of permanent servitude. So let me be very clear. I am not in favor of the ACA going forward. We have a bill that will immediately end it the moment that we in the House and the Senate pass reform of healthcare.
Or listen to this Republican farmer in Iowa express her frustration with Republican Zach Nunn from Iowa's 3rd congressional district. Let's play this clip.
Trump's big Argentina beef bailout didn't feel so America first, nor does talk about somehow taking Greenland.
I don't agree with that in any way, shape, or form.
So that's not what you voted for?
No.
Ebersol's take on Washington? Trump picks too many fights. And people in Congress, she says, worry too much about money and power and too little about family farmers or finding compromise.
There is a lot of that. You know, you don't have to walk through it. You have to wade through it, because it's like knee deep in your neck of the woods.
She says that frustration includes her Republican Congressman, Zach Nunn.
Okay, cows, raise a hoof. Who thinks Zach Nunn's doing a good job in Congress? Nobody.
I would probably agree there. That is one call that I might make.
You're open to voting for a Democrat?
Of course. I think that you have to vote for the person that best meets your goals.
And when Donald Trump was in Iowa, he stopped at this diner and all he was focused on was this blonde lady that was there, and it was like super creepy, and he was like, it was very strange, in my opinion. I'm just giving you my opinion. I thought it was super creepy. He was wearing a glove to hide the discolored hand of his. And then when he gave a speech and he was referring to E15, which is the gasoline blended with the 15% of ethanol, and what he wants Congress to do. He wants Congress to pass legislation to permanently enable year-round nationwide sales of E15, that's gasoline blended with up to 15% of ethanol. Donald Trump said that China is sending him the bill as though China is Congress. Here, let's play this clip right here.
And China will be sending me a bill very shortly supporting year-round E15 to my desk very quickly, and I will sign it without delay, okay? I hope you remember us for the midterms.
And so the center of where everything is happening, where Democrats can flip these midterm elections, we've been covering it before. It's Iowa, and there's a reason why, by the way, Donald Trump went to Iowa to give that disastrous speech where he said that he solved inflation and everything is great and everybody in Iowa is doing amazing now and he's saving the farmers. The people in Iowa were like, what are you talking about? By the way, it should be noted that on Friday there was that horrible inflation readout where inflation's actually surging right now, way worse than many people expected. We'll talk about that in a moment, but we've been covering all of these special district races starting back in January 2025 with Mark Zimmer. That was the first big flip, and he flipped the plus 21 Trump district. Then there was the Caitlin Dray district, which was a plus 11 Trump district, and she won by 10, so it was a plus 21 flip there. We've been following massive Democratic overperformances in Senate districts during special elections, and there many people believe in Iowa the Democrats are poised to take over a number of those seats, a number of those races. And if you go back to 2018, one of the ways the Democrats took control of the House in 2018, well, there was a bigger wave, was lots of flips in Iowa. So I want to bring in Sarah Trone Garriott, who's running in Iowa's 3rd Congressional District, State Senator Sarah Trone Garriott, Lutheran pastor, state senator. Your work at the Des Moines Area Religious Council Food Pantry is something that I think we should definitely highlight as well. And you're going to be running against MAGA Republican. You are running against a MAGA Republican Congress member by the name of Zach Nunn, someone who voted for Medicaid cuts, someone who's out there championing closing the rural clinics, not championing the rural clinics, shutting them down. He's like the Pied Piper of dread and dead, just cutting stuff. And when it comes to public corruption, this guy is right up there with all the MAGAs in their golden ballrooms and their Club Mar-a-Lagos and whatever the heck they're doing. But you're here fighting for the people of Iowa. So tell us about why this race is so important. And you think you can flip this, Sarah? State Senator Garriott?
Well, this race is incredibly important to our whole country. This is one of the seats that was key in the House majority in 2022 when we lost it. We had a Democratic congresswoman who lost her seat that year. But I'm one of the rare Iowa Democrats that has actually flipped Republican seats and won in Republican districts. So I'm a state senator. I flipped a seat in 2020. 2 years later, I sold my house and moved districts to take on the state Senate president because he was threatening our public school teachers with jail time. And so I challenged him and I beat him in a Republican district in a really tough year for Iowa Democrats. And then in 24, I held on to a Trump district. So I know how to win, and I do that by showing up for all of my neighbors. And that's what Iowans need right now more than anything, is a congressperson who's showing up in Washington for them. People are angry. They can see that the policies Zach Nunn is supporting, the way he's cheering on every chaotic act this president can dish out, it's hurting them. And so we're seeing rising costs. We're seeing our farm economy being destroyed as a direct result of these tariffs. And we're seeing rural clinics closing, and we're even seeing large metro hospitals laying off staff because of these coming Medicaid cuts. And just this week, Zach Nunn said he wants the ACA gone, which is going to create even more devastation. The stakes have never been higher. And Iowa's a place we can win because I've done it before.
We all saw, I guess you'd call it a Trump rally in Iowa this week. It was very bizarre. He would say things like, China will be sending him a bill and he's going to sign China's bill into law. What do you mean China's sending you a bill? And then he would say things, though, that nobody's talking about affordability anymore. He said, we've solved it. You noticed we did it. Mission accomplished. And then he went on to say that the farmers in Iowa love him and he's done such great work. He would lie about things like, you know, I've made the prices this amount, and people would be like, I just went to the store. I just saw that. That's not what the price is. What are you hearing? Because as you said, your state Senate district, it's a red district, is a Trump kind of turf flipping district that you turn. What are you hearing as you're campaigning in this congressional district? What do the people make of this stuff?
So I spend a lot of time out in my communities, knocking on doors, visiting with folks. I was just in the small town of Adel this morning, visiting with some city leaders to talk about the challenges they're facing. And everyone tells me costs keep going up. We are struggling to afford our lives. All of the basics are getting harder to provide for families. Iowans can see what's happening in their lives. And when the president showed up, it was about making excuses for the policies that are really hurting folks. But what Iowans need more than anything is a government that's going to get to work on the problems facing them. They need a congressperson who's actually going to be showing up for them and making sure that we address the rising cost of living and the challenges facing our healthcare system that they're making so much worse with these Medicaid cuts and attacking the ACA. We need somebody who's actually listening to the people in our district. Unfortunately, my congressperson has never held an open town hall, which is in a pretty strong contrast to me, who, as a minister, as a nonprofit leader, as a state legislator, I spend so much time out in my communities listening to people and talking to them. And that's where I really get my direction for what we need to get to work on.
So let's talk about you win day one. Talk about what your priorities are going to be.
Number one, we've got to get costs under control. Folks are struggling. So many of my neighbors are needing help right now. They never needed help before. So I worked for a food pantry network for the last 9 years, and we've seen food insecurity on the rise because people can't afford everything else that matters in their lives. They can't afford their housing. They can't afford their health care. They're having challenges affording transportation, and food costs, we know, are just going up and up and up. And so one of the most important ways we can do that is by putting an end to these chaotic tariffs. They are raising costs on everything, and our economy in Iowa is in turmoil because of it. We're seeing just this ripple effect from the farmers who they've lost their markets. The prices are tanking for their crops, and it's filtering on down to every aspect of our community. And it's causing layoffs for manufacturers. It's meaning investors aren't taking the next step. People are pulling back. There's a lot of fear. And so, number one, we've got to work on those really chaotic tariffs. We need to be bringing folks together to solve the problems facing folks, including the price gouging that we're seeing from some retailers. We really, really need to address, the high cost of healthcare, trying to make sure that our neighbors can be covered, that they can afford their healthcare coverage, that they have access to healthcare. That's going to support everyone and keep costs in check for everyone who needs to visit the doctor and go to the hospital and get treatment and care.
I want you to let people know where they could find more information about your campaign in a moment, but also as part of my last question in general, just especially with your background and everything, we often talk about politics and political issues and this person's beating that person. But, sometimes I like to pull back, and I just want your perspective on this. So much of what's happening right now seems like it's a good versus evil thing. Like, I don't view some of these things that are happening. And I think you being able to flip, Trump districts and Trump areas, I just think people are looking at what's happening and saying, it's not normal. This is not okay. This is not how we should treat each other and our fellow human beings. And it's cruel and it's unusual. And what are we even doing here? And when I wake up, that's sometimes just what I think. And that's what fuels me to lead this network and to lead all this. Is I'm just like, I never really came from a political background before I started this. And now obviously I cover this stuff, but it's like, what are you doing? Just be nicer and better, and let's help each other live in a better world. So maybe address that, then tell people where they could find out more about your campaign before we go.
So I never aspired to be in elected office. That is not why I do this. But when I see a problem, I want to help. And so I first ran for state senate because I was showing up at the Capitol on issues I cared about and realized that my legislators weren't necessarily making decisions in the best interest of the community, but thinking about it in terms of politics and winning elections. And so I was at the Iowa Capitol the very first time our state tried to ban abortion at 6 weeks. And I saw my state legislator, my state senator across the rotunda, ran over to him and said, what would happen to a woman with an ectopic pregnancy if this bill passes? And he said, what's that? He didn't even know what a very common pregnancy complication was and how his decisions would impact the lives, the health, the well-being of our neighbors. And that was the moment I realized I needed to run. And in this moment too, we are seeing decisions being made purely for politics and not for the health and well-being and success of our communities. We need something better. And that's why I've stepped up to run. As a minister, I know it's my job to show up and listen to all of my constituents, and I work very, very hard to do that. I make sure that I am serving everyone who is in my district and listening to their concerns and getting to work on the problems that are impacting them right now. Unfortunately, we do not have that in our government, but government can work to solve problems. It's how we work together to address big challenges. And it's time we reclaim that by electing folks who are going to make sure that they are putting the people first, not politics. And so folks can learn more about me on my website, sarahforiowa.com. That's sarahforiowa.com. And follow me on social media, because that's a good place where you can see what I'm up to, the things I'm hearing from the community, and what we need to do to make sure we have a better voice for Iowans in Washington.
State Senator Sarah Trone Garriott, state senator running for Iowa's 3rd Congressional District against that MAGA Republican candidate Zach Nunn, who refuses to hold town halls or talk with his constituents, whereas you talk with the constituents and hold town halls almost all the time. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.